I recorded a video, I think it was about a week ago, maybe a couple of weeks ago, called The Terrible Threes. And in there, I talked about how people often have this perception that things go wrong at 3 days and 3 weeks and 3 months and 3 years. And that video was used to dispel the idea that there's automatically bad time periods, tied to specific time frames. And again, in that video, it'll talk about why the 3 day thing is a real issue and why 3 months has issues about it, which are usually tied to seasonal triggers. But at the very end of there, I got into a big section about how there just really isn't a predestined number of days that people have to worry about. And I realized that there's times where it'll pop up on the board that someone will say, oh, they're having a bad time. They're 10 days into their quit. And then all of a sudden somebody else will come in and say, oh, yeah, I had this bad time at 10 days after their quit. And now everybody reading it is thinking like, oh, wow, something happens at 10 days. Now, this isn't an issue for people who are off for 20 days and 30 days and, years. They're looking at it and realizing, well, the ones who are off for years may think, wow, I probably had a bad time at 10 days too, because they don't remember. And they may not have had a bad time. People who quit, within the last few weeks probably realize if they did or didn't have a bad time, that it either applied to them or they didn't. But you know where my concern is? It's for people who are off for 7 days, who are reading this and thinking, oh man, 3 days from now, am I ever in trouble? That's when it's going to hit. There's nothing unique about that 10-day mark for that individual. It doesn't mean it's going to happen to all individuals. It doesn't even mean it's going to happen to most people. Are there going to be a few? Sure, but that's just variability of what's going on in those people's lives, events that may have been triggering it, events that aren't triggering other people because they're not having it at the same point in time. The message I want to get across here, and again, you can go listen to it from the Terrible Three video, for detail. But the important message I want here is there isn't a predestined time period. No predestined time period that's going to guarantee things are going to be bad for an individual. I guess on the same token, you need to be fair about this. There isn't any predestined time period when things are going to get good for people either. Someone's going to say, oh yeah, they had a bad time, and then all of a sudden this day it got, magically better. Well, no one should be sitting around thinking like everything's going to get magically better for them on that day either. Yeah, it happened for that individual, but it doesn't mean it's going to happen to others. So it's just a very important point. And this is probably more important for message boards than it is just for general public. Now again, general public too. They may encounter a person that they'll hear something and they'll take that one experience as that's the experience. But I do think it's more common where people will read it on a message board, and especially on a message board where others come in and say, oh, that's exactly what happened to me, because it sets up this kind of notion that is the norm. And the part that I want to use this video for is to really get that point hit home, that it's just not true that there are predestined time periods that things alter for people. Things alter, trigger-wise by events, and that's it. Events that happen, some which are natural events, some which are, predestined by dates. Again, when a holiday hits and a holiday passes, that's a predetermined date. And sure, holidays are going to have their triggers associated with smoking in one way or another. But the general, just day-to-day time periods, that's variable to everybody's lives and everybody's events and everybody's schedules, and everybody has different schedules for things. So don't worry about specific time periods getting bad. Don't hold your breath about specific time periods getting good. Again, it's be giving equal time here to both sides here. Things will just get better and better, though, over time as you get more experience under your belt. I mean, quitting smoking really is a learning process. You're learning how to do lots of different things without smoking, and you'll learn events as they come up. And the more events you get through, the more time you get under your belt will translate to the more events you'll get through. And every event you get through, you're proving to yourself over and over again that I can do this without smoking. I can do this without smoking. I can do that without smoking. And the more things that you start to do, the more you'll start to realize, hopefully, that you can do everything without smoking. And you'll be able to continue doing everything without smoking, for the rest of your life, as long as you stick to your personal commitment. to never take another puff.